Alright, we're going to go and continue on. Looking at example 3, this is, I apologize. This is Math 2.4 on trigonometry. It is part 2. And for this one here, we are on example 3. It's where we did example 2 on the last video. And so for this one, here's our angle. So this is going to be a hypotenuse because it's opposite the right angle, which makes this one our adjacent side. The opposite is not given, or we're not looking for it. So we're only doing adjacent and hypotenuse. So adjacent and hypotenuse goes with the trig function cosine. So cosine theta is equal to the adjacent side, which is 13, over the hypotenuse x. Once again, our variable is in the denominator, so we will start by multiplying x to both sides. So we get x cosine theta equals 13. These cancel. And then we will divide I apologize. I forgot to write 40. We know the angle. We don't have to put theta in because we know it's 40 degrees. There we go. So we'll divide both sides by cosine 40. Those will cancel. We have x equals 13 divided by cosine 40. Alright, that's a calculator moment, so we'll go ahead and pull the calculator over. And for this one, we're going to have 13 divided by cosine 40 degrees. And that gives us 16.97. So if I round that, the 7 rounds the 9 to 10, which means the 1 would carry over. This would be 17.0. And the 0.0 is important because it's telling you that this is accurate to 1/10. In other words, if rounding occurred, it occurred here at this decimal place. If you just wrote 17, then they could assume that you rounded to the ones place and not the tenths place. So that is important to include there. And let's move on to example 4. Here's our reference angle. This side is going to be the adjacent, and this side opposite the right angle is the hypotenuse. So once again, adjacent and hypotenuse is cosine again. So cosine of 66 degrees is equal to the adjacent side, which is 14, divided by the hypotenuse, which is x. So it's very similar setup. The orientations of the triangles are different, but it actually winds up being the exact same setup as the previous problem. And so we'll multiply both sides by x, so those cancel. So we have x cosine 66 equals 14. Divide both sides by cosine 66, and we get x equals 14 divided by cosine 66. That is a calculator moment. So 14 divided by cosine 66. If I can move this to a place where you can see that a little bit better. There we go. And that winds up being 34.4. Alright. So we did 4 of these problems. We made sure to have at least one of each of the 3. And so now it's your opportunity to work some problems on your own. So I'd like you to go ahead and pause the video. I want you to try these 4 problems and then unpause the video when you're done to check to see how you did. But before you do, I do recommend maybe watching a video that is also there. It's a music video. It was done by a high school called Getting Tricky with It. It's actually pretty good, and it shows you how to kind of goes over everything that we've talked about with trigonometry. I think it's well done. Might even give you some shortcuts on that. Then go ahead and try these 4 problems. Okay, so hopefully you have those problems done, and we're going to go ahead and go over them. Here are the first 2 that I did. So I did use a little shortcut, and you may have caught it with the video, or you may have noticed in the previous problems, whenever x was down on the bottom, we multiplied both sides by x, and then we divided by the trig function to get x by itself. So our final answer looked like this. We can actually do a shortcut. When x is down low, you can switch these here because that's what winds up happening when you go through that process. When you multiply x to both sides, then you divide both sides by the trig function, you just wind up with this answer. So if you're comfortable with the shortcut, just switching the x and the sine 54 here, and the x and the tangent 29 here, and you just wind up dividing. So you get 34.3 and 19.8. Now I'm going to move on to the next one. Just always remember, you can pause the videos at any time, so if I go too fast, you can pause, write down what you need to do. And for the next two, these are both tangent problems, and when x is up high, the video said you multiply, so you wind up just taking x is equal to this denominator times the trig function. So that winds up what's happening in each case. So that's kind of a nice shortcut, but you can, if you don't like the shortcut, you can just, solve it the old-fashioned way. Whatever you do to one side, you do to the other. Use opposite operations, but solve them like we've been solving the proportions. All right, so we just have one last problem left, and this is a problem where it's a word problem, and you haven't been given a picture or anything like that. So for this, you have to read it and draw the picture. So you're standing 100 feet away from Rapunzel's tower. As you look up at her window, you notice the angle to the window is 40 degrees from the ground. That's important. How long must Rapunzel's hair be for it to reach the ground? So we can build like the tower here. There's a tower. We'll just do that here. And then we'll put her window right there. And then the ground will be down here. And then there you are. Okay, and this distance right here is 100 feet, because it says you're 100 feet away from Rapunzel's tower. As you look up at her window, and I'm going to go ahead and draw an angle here, and now notice I didn't go from your eyes, but I went from the feet, because it says that the angle is 40 degrees from the ground. So this is your 40 degrees, and that is your 100. How long must Rapunzel's hair be for it to reach the ground? So Rapunzel's hair is going to come out this window down here, right? So really what we want to know is, what is the length of this side? If I were to continue this rectangle, how long would her hair be? And so that's our x. So if 40 is our angle here, angle of elevation from the ground, 40 degrees, this becomes our opposite side. And then this is just the distance away. This becomes your adjacent side. And so for this last problem, oh gosh, I'm sorry, I apologize. Let me get this, maybe a better picture here. I'm having some trouble with my stand here, it keeps tipping over. There we go. So once again, we have our tower, there's our 40 degrees, there's your opposite side, and this 100 feet is your adjacent side. So if we look, opposite and adjacent, that's tangent. So we would have tangent of 40 degrees is equal to the opposite side, which is our unknown, x, over our adjacent side, which is 100 feet. Here, x is up high, so we multiply. So essentially, to find this distance, we're going to take x, and we're going to multiply it times 100 tan 40. Essentially, we're just multiplying 100 to both sides to clear the fraction. And so now it's calculator moment, right? We're just going to take 100, multiply it times tan 40. So tan, actually I'll just start with 100. 100 times tan 40 degrees. And that winds up being 83.9 feet. Okay, so that's how tall. Oh, geez, I apologize. I guess I'm tired on this last one. I typed it into the calculator, didn't show you what I was doing. So this 100 times tan 40 gives you 83.9, so it's 83.9 feet. So you might have word problems where you have to draw it out, but you just need to make it look like the other triangles that we've been dealing with, as far as making sure you label the reference angle and then determine what sides are we talking about when we're talking about our unknown and our given values. Are these opposite sides? Are the adjacent sides? or the hypotenuses. So you got to figure those out to figure out which trig function and then to actually do the math. Alright, that ends lesson 2.4 on trigonometry.